cut into the Mavericks lead. It's now 2-1 Dallas after a road win by LA. In fact, the road teams are now 3-0 in this series. It's Playoff Central Live presented by State Farm. Matt Weiner, Carlos Boozer, Ryan Hollins right there. A lot of questions about this Clipper team given their recent history, about their competitive will, about what's going on between the ears, as Kawhi Leonard put it earlier this week. How important is it moving forward, not just for this series, but to their collective psyche and to the psyche of Clippers fans that they could get a win on the road tonight?
Yeah, I thought it was almost a must-win. We use that term loosely, but I just felt like Dallas had dominated them in L.A. in those first two games. So coming back here, showing some grit, getting a good win, even with Luka having a monster night, they still got the victory. I thought it was necessary just to give them, just for themselves to have that confidence moving forward in the series.
Yeah, Bulls, they couldn't go down 0-3. There's no way. And you look at this team, they're contenders. You would put them pound for pound.
Should be, right?
Pound for pound against the Lakers, pound for pound against the Nets, Philly, Milwaukee, whoever you want to put in that conversation. So with Kawhi Leonard as decorated as he has been and spectacular, Rondo joining, playoff Rondo, Paul George joining the party, they had to get this win. And to think that you just be losing to Luka Doncic, just essentially one-on-one, who's been utterly amazing and a rising young star in this league, I just don't think it's his time. It should be, in quotations, the Clippers' time. So, huge, impactful win.
Well, again, based on the roster, it was hard to understand what happened the first two games of this series. Dallas is a really, really good offensive team, and were again tonight. They hit 20 of 39 from three-point range. But the Clippers have so much firepower on both ends of the floor, and tonight shot nearly 58%. What keeps them from performing this way on other nights?
Chemistry is still a factor with the Clippers, however you want to put it. They haven't practiced much. I know COVID has been tough on each and every, one of these NBA rosters and teams as far as getting a lot of work in. But, it's just been tough for the Clippers. And Kawhi Leonard, he's not a natural facilitator. He's a scorer. He gets buckets. And you thought that Rondo would just be the missing piece. It hasn't worked so lightly with that. So, these guys, their calling card should have been defense. And it had been defense. Luka had been doing whatever he wanted on the offensive end. They can get stagnant at times, but I thought there was a consistent effort to share the basketball tonight. And defensively, they got after Luka. He had 44, but he had to work through 4 quarters to get it, and I thought he just ran out of gas.
Yeah, great point. I thought the Clippers did a good enough job defensively to get this win tonight. Shot the ball very well, shared the ball very well, did a good job. And I still feel like Dallas did a good job as well. They played very well down the stretch, but I feel like Luka did get tired.
Yeah.
He's been carrying this team. Need a little bit more help from Porzingis, some other guys, especially moving forward. Listen, Kawhi Leonard is a champion.
Yeah.
A couple times over. So if he sees a little clink in the armor, a little chink in the armor, he may attack this. If they tie this series up 2-2 going back to L.A., watch out.
Dallas led this game by 19, and, good for the Clippers showing some resilience, which has been lacking at times. Remember last year against Denver, a lot of folks accused this team of quitting, essentially. This would have been an opportunity to do just that. The light bulb went off, something happened, and they decided to compete in this game and in this series and turn things around. And maybe this is the sort of moment that can launch them to something greater.
Yeah, I think it was great. This game was really in the balance most of the game, and they kind of pulled away a little bit towards the end of the game, which they needed that confidence to, sometimes when you're in the middle of a series, you got to realize that, okay, can we beat this team? Now they know they can beat this team, even with the history of last year, getting to the conference finals and what have you. They got to have a way in this playoffs and against Dallas to find a way to win, and they did that tonight as a group of guys. Can they carry that in the game 4, and what will Dallas do to offset that?
I think that, nothing like a little piece of humble pie. And sometimes you got to come out and you got to give yourself to the game of basketball. You got to dive on the floor. You got to remember the plays. You got to come together. You can't forget a box out. You can't forget a rebound. I can't tell you how important the little things are. And I think, honestly, being honest, we got to give a different level of respect to Luka Doncic.
Yeah.
Luka Doncic is a bona fide star in the league. He's a top 5 player. His name should be mentioned, even though there aren't championships yet. But with the LeBrons, with the Currys, with the KDs, he's shown us this type of performance. And I thought that respect was there. Good job of Ty Lue of throwing multiple defenders on it. We saw Rondo late in the game. Terrence Mann got to put some energy. Kawhi Leonard had him in spurts. And that's just what it may have to be right now to guard him. But I think he garners that type of respect with his ability to score one-on-one. And then when you play coverage, he picks you apart and hits guys for wide open shots.
Yeah, I mean, his stat line tonight, 44, 9, and 9. Did a great job of getting everybody involved. And he shot over 50% again. He's a handful. And to your point, I thought Ty Lue did a good job of throwing buys out on him as well. But Luka is unguardable right now.
It is amazing the numbers he's putting up, not only in this series, but over his relatively young postseason career. And you sort of take him for granted at this point. He's still really young, but he's putting up these crazy numbers. He was 15 of 28 from the field, 7 of 13 from three-point range tonight. He had 9 assists and 9 boards. 5 turnovers is acceptable for the amount of time he has the ball in his hands. You're okay with 9 turnovers there and 44 points. We'll hear from him in a little while. First of all, let's backtrack. Jason Tatum has made his way to the podium in Boston after his 50-point night in the Celtics win over the Nets. Let's hear from him.
They have a chance to be successful again.
You know, Booze, when somebody hits you with a number like that, it's tempting to, try to radically change your approach defensively to that player. How much differently should Brooklyn approach Game 4 from the way they defended Tatum tonight?
Yeah, if I'm Steve Nash and the crew, I'm not going to overreact. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, he had a spectacular night, played phenomenal, hit big shot after big shot. But my big three had 96, and one of them shot 6 for 17.
Right. So
the Brooklyn Nets offense, their game plan is to outscore you. They want to score more. They don't really care if they stop you. They stop you. They want to outscore you. That's their whole game plan. That's what D'Antoni's game plan was when Steve Nash was the head coach there. I mean, was the point guard there in Phoenix. They're going to outscore you, and these guys can do it every night. Any one of them can have 40 points any night. So I'm not going to overreact. I'm not going to start doubling him and tripling him. If he does it again and the series is tied up at 2-2, then I'm going to overreact and make some changes.
Maybe not overreact, but react a little more.
Yeah. Sure.
What do you think? What else can they do on Sunday in Game 4 against him, or should they just challenge him? Okay, do it again.
I think there's a level where you got to challenge him and he's got to do it again. I'd like, in primarily a perfect world, to keep a bigger defender. I would, hard show with Kyrie Irving or some of the smaller guards so that you can keep big on him all night long. And then offensively, I thought it was too much one-on-one. If they had the opportunity to share the basketball, it's going to be a game changer. But, James Harden's excellent shooting that step back. We saw it all night. But the one thing I really admired in that first game 1 and 2, they got easy baskets. Joe Harris scoring is a great sign. And the bench did not show up today. And I know, obviously, Jeff Green not in the lineup changes things. I've been there as a role player. But ultimately, if they can move the basketball, get out in transition, they're going to be just fine.
It's not really how Boston plays, though, in terms of the ball movement and whatnot. They've been an ISO team for much of the year. This is what you're going to get. You're going to get Tatum taking those kinds of shots.
I would say more so the Nets, but Boston needs that from Tatum. With Brown out, they got to play like that.
They got to go through. They got to go through Tatum. He has to go out one-on-one. He's proven that he's a phenomenal one-on-one player. But Brooklyn did a good job in the first 2 games of sharing the ball with each other. Yeah.
Game 2, they were particularly good. 31 assists in Game 2 for Brooklyn, to your point about the ball movement there. And I think you'll hear a lot of that from them between now and Game 4 as well. Boston wins it tonight again. They'll be back on Sunday with a full house in Boston as the rules change about capacity for TD Garden. It's an interesting development for this series. What does it potentially mean for the Celtics, who now feel like they have a little life?
I mean, that's huge. If I can get fans in the building where it's 2-1, our star just had 50 points. Everybody's been dying to see us play. They're going to pack the house. And Boston is one of the best. They got some of the best fans. They come out. They show out for their team. They go hard for that team. I don't care if it's the Red Sox, the Patriots, or the Celtics. The fans come out in Boston. So it's going to be a good atmosphere.
I played in Boston, arguably the most knowledgeable crowd fan base that I've ever played for. They understood 2 for 1. They knew the foul situation. They get what's going on there. So, the Garden is going to be absolutely rocking. I had some amazing memories, some of my favorite NBA memories there. But I know it's going to be an amazing performance. And they just look different tonight. Their energy, their effort, Marcus Smart flying around, Tristan Thompson grabbing boards, all those little plays are going to be needed. But the Boston faithful, man, that's a different type of whole crowd right there.
Those fans also probably feel pretty good about the fact that Kyrie Irving was 6 of 17 from the field tonight. Whether the crowd and all the booing had any impact on him or not. And he kind of dismissed that after the game. He's a human being. He's got the history there. He knew the storylines going into it. He created some of the storylines going into what happened tonight as well. How much of that can you block out as a player when the ball is up in the air and it's time to go?
Look, Matt, I played with Kyrie with the Cavaliers. I also played in Boston. He's not a bad guy. He doesn't want to be disliked. He doesn't want to be disrespected either. And I'm sure he feels some type of way about the things that going on in Boston. So I know tonight that crowd did their job and they bothered him. He's human, Now, next game, it's a fine line between him being off and him going off for 40 or 50 himself.
Yeah, I doubt Kyrie has 2 bad games in a row. He's a phenomenal player, done it for a very long time. He's a champion, his big shots in playoffs. And he's a veteran, so he'll be able to come back, stick it back to just basketball, like he said in the interview after the game, get back to basketball, get back to the basics. I'm sure he'll have a huge game for him.
Steve Nash also has to assess the bench. We talked about how poorly they fared against the Boston bench.